Bearcat Bounce Podcast, back at it again. As you can see, if you're watching live or tuning in, it's the BBP. That means I'm joined by my two partners, comrades, collective crew, Aaron Smith and Chad Brendel. Aaron, Chad, how are we?
Just starting to celebrate Christmas stuff. So this weekend was pretty busy for me, but excited that got a lot of it close to done. So
there you go.
This week, grinding.
Chad, you're always grinding, but how are we?
Good. Practice action today, a little install. Team turning their attention to Alabama. The scout team jerseys were back out. Didn't have them on last week. It was open practice last week, but this week it's sights set on the Crimson Tide and working towards the national semifinals. So it's go time in Bearcat Nation.
You know, speaking of go time, whenever you mention go time, it's always a good time to go to Danco Transmission and Auto Care. So it's a good time to mention them. They're family owned since 1970 in Fairfield near Jungle Gyms. They're proud to support the Bearcats and the BBP. Mention the BBP for $10 off any oil change or service. Danco Transmission. Thank you very much, Danco. And now we're back. Speaking of quick adjustments and oil changes and things on the fly, if you will, the basketball team had a bit of a adversity strike Friday. Friday felt eerily terrible, if you guys are going to be honest with me as well. The thought of seeing a game canceled due to COVID complications it brought back just horrible memories of last season. And but like you've seen other teams do around the country, Wes Miller wasted no time. And I loved what he said in his post-game press conference following the win against Ashland, how these kids work too hard, these players put in too much time. We're going to do all we can to schedule an opponent and make sure that they have a game to play. Chad, you got to yet again tip your cap to Wes Miller doing what's right and finding an opponent so quickly, even though it was a Division II Ashland.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to agree with Wes. Like, these guys spend all summer, working towards the season. School starts, they start. Practice starts, they're going 20 hours a week. And then if you get to the season, all of a sudden you're not gonna play the games. Like, I just think it's a necessary evil as we're once again dealing with another rise in COVID, that if you have games that fall through, you owe it to the guys to do what's right by them and have their hard work pay off. So, that's where I'm at on that. I just think you do everything possible. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. But you have to make sure you're doing everything you can to get them on the floor, playing as many games as possible.
Yeah, and you mentioned last season, West did how they played every game that they were allowed to. And I didn't do a quick look around the country because I'd be looking at 360 some odd teams, scheduled from last season. But it's got to be one of the few squads out there that did everything they could to play every single game. But Aaron, if I know you're away from the screen, but are you available? I gotta ask you a question.
Yep.
When it came out, when you saw that first inkling of games getting canceled on the weekend, having to find different options to play, and then all of a sudden you see the same thing for the Bearcats trickle through, it had to be just an eerie bad feeling. But one that you all of a sudden were like, well, I'm sure they're going to do something to find an opponent, just like all these other teams did.
It's like deja vu all over again, unfortunately.
Yep.
I mean, we know how this felt last year. Of course, your mind, in my sense anyway, immediately went to the football team and hoping that this isn't something that carries over with any of those guys. But, more importantly right now, as there was a game, it was good to see that they did get something scheduled, and good to see that on such a short notice they were able to pull off a win in a season that's been up and down, really. So you never really know what team is going to show up.
Let's talk about the game real fast. Obviously, we have to. I'm going to venture out to say that there is one player in particular on Ashland who is going to give people our age fits in 30 years on the court, at the local YMCA, at the local, wherever you play your little pickup basketball games. You got to think that Derek Cook is going to be one load to handle down low in the post and shooting bank shots from the outside. I mean, this team, you just watched them out there in the beginning. You were like, okay, it seems like a size advantage. And then all of a sudden they're running a bit of a methodical offense and kind of was taking it out of Cincinnati's hands a bit. Chad, obviously, teams like this, you don't have too much time to prep for. That might be the reason why they were able to. Yeah. What? They said they did a 30-minute walkthrough prior to the tip-off in the beginning on Saturday. I mean, teams that run these backdoor cuts, run these offensive sets and things like that, that's going to give you a little bit more difficulty than you would imagine, rather than a team that wants to just get up and down the court and just play free basketball.
Yeah, you've got to. I mean, that's where like scouting reports are critical, right? Like, this is when they're going to cut. This is how they're going to cut. Recognizing the plays before they run them. You didn't get any of that because it was scheduled in such a quick fashion. So, I mean, that makes it tough. You definitely don't want to run into like Princeton style offenses without any prep time. But that made it more challenging. And it's some of it too, man. Like they pretty clearly got up 25 and took their foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And thought that they were just going to coast to victory. And credit to Ashland for continuing to play, continuing to push forward. And, it made it a little more. I mean, it got to 10, got back to 10. Yeah. Never got any closer than that. Hilarious, Ed. Great joke. Tell Ed that I'm dealing with an 11-year-old tonight, that I'm not in the greatest of moods.
I don't have to tell him. You just did. He's obviously listening.
I'm not in a great mood, Ed.
It's a PTP takeover. Aaron's hat and Ed chiming in. I like it. Little collab. But no, I agreed, Chad. Agreed. But in the same sense, offensively, we still saw some lapses. I think what we also saw is David Julius in the second half deciding he was going to put the team on his back for a little bit and kind of scored at will about 5 or 6 straight possessions in a row, or at least got fouled and went to the line and had a chance to add from there as well. Aaron, then you look and you see the big men. Literally no production from Victor Locken. Shall we say he was not locked in during this one? It just seemed as if it was an interesting game from the post perspective when it should have been one possibly where they just dominated.
Well, and I mean, you mentioned Victor Locken, but I think you can also mention Odie, Hayden, Ado. None of them did anything.
4 points.
Anything
combined.
Worth writing home about. That's not what you want to see. And, obviously we knew that was a huge weakness on this team kind of going into it, although we thought that we had some Band-Aids, and especially the shot blocking aspect of it all. Koval ended up with 2 blocks. Ado had 1 block, but I don't know that that's enough to make up for 4 points collectively.
Yeah. And I mean, 9 minutes out of Big Vic, 0 shot attempts. I don't know if there was anything behind the scenes going on there as far as just, maybe they got up big. Kind of a weird thing on Saturday as well when, it's midday. You get up early, like Chad and Aaron have said, and then all of a sudden it's just like, okay, this one's a win. And it's not even one that counts on the Ken Palm. It's just a weird situation overall, but it's one that does count in the final record book.
I think with Vic, Jeremiah was hot. He hit 6 threes and 2 twos that had his toe on the line.
Yeah.
So Vic mostly plays the 4.
Right.
Aaron had the stats up. Jeremiah played 27, 28 minutes.
Yeah.
Back up again.
So in that situation, you're rolling with the hot hand.
Yep.
Are you really going to take Jeremiah off the floor to get Vic minutes in a game where Jeremiah is shooting the ball as well as he did? 28 minutes, 8 of 15 from the floor. Like I said, the 2 2-pointers he took, his foot was on the line. So he really should have had, there was, 6 inches away from having 8 3-pointers in the game. So I think that's just a matter of, how the minutes kind of played out.
Yeah. You also saw both of them kind of go off. I think this team is constantly searching for who's going to be, when one player scores, who's that secondary scorer? When 2 people are kind of going a little bit, who's going to be that third one to bring the boost? And, you saw 2 players score over 20 points for the first time since last season. You also saw the 6 3-pointers. It was, it just obviously great to see Jeremiah come out of this funk. During the game, I was like, oh gosh, we're wasting all of our makes against Ashland. But aside from that, it was more than just hopefully good to get this team back in the groove. And even though they were up by 25, and then slowly Ashland came back into it, it was good to see them kind of put the foot on the gas a little bit. And hopefully that continues through Tuesday when Tennessee Tech comes into town, and then you've got a massive matchup in the following week against Houston. I kind of wrapping up the non-conference. Obviously, there's 1 game left. Cincinnati should be favored by double digits plus. What's your kind of outlook as far as this team is through this first 13 games, 12 games now with 1 left? And it's been really weird up and down, but still in the end, it's a chance for Wes Miller to win 10 out of the first 13 games. John Brandon didn't do that in 2 games. 2 seasons before. It took Mick, 3 seasons to get to 10 non-conference wins. A lot of different ways to really look at the first 13 games of the season.
Well, go ahead, Aaron.
I was just going to say 9-3. I mean, I think it's better than a lot of us had anticipated initially, myself included. I honestly, even knowing what we knew going into the season, I think 9-3 is a little bit better, especially with that win over Illinois still as the largest feather in the cap. But we also know that there's a lot of needs on this team and a lot of things that need fixed. Unfortunately, as we've repeated on this podcast, I just don't know if you have the pieces in place right now to be able to make those fixes, make those changes this season. So it's a lot of hurry up and wait.
Well, I think saying something needs fixed implies something's broken. I don't know that anything's broken. I think it's just the nature of, I said this on the board the other day, you've got to remember, this is the 3rd season in a row that half or more of the roster turned over.
Right.
Yep.
So the outside of the obvious problems with that, what people don't think about is, as you're building, right? As you're building a program, you have the luxury of knowing, okay, here's my guys, here's what I've got, here's what we don't have. And then addressing it through recruiting. And you add a couple pieces that are designed to fix what your flaws are, to go with the guys that you have, that play to the strengths that you want to play to. And that is an ongoing stack, right? Of, look, Luke Fickell added, hey, when we lose Brian Wright, we're going to need Darian Beavers. When we lose James Wiggins and Derek Forrest, we're going to need Brian Cook. These are the things that happen once you get into year 3, year 4, year 5 of a program. Wes is just now he just moved into the house, right? When you just move, when you walk through, you buy it, everything looks great. It seems like everything's, perfect. And now you're living in the house and, oh, well, this outlet doesn't work. Oh, the water pressure in the bathroom, in the bedroom is low. And all of a sudden, okay, now I gotta fix this and I gotta fix that and I gotta work on this, and it adds up. And until you really have it, there's no free agency there's free agency in college, but it's restricted in time. You can't go out and make a trade and fix what your problems are right now.
Not yet.
Yeah, that's probably coming at some point in time. So I think that's what people have to keep in mind is none of this fits right because nobody had ever seen, this group play together until they start playing games together. Like you've seen them in practice and you get an idea in practice on what you think you're going to be, but that's not a full representation of, what you look like in games. Because what happens if you're if you're a bad defensive rebounding team? That means in practice, the other team, the guys that are on offense are going to look like good offensive rebounders.
Yep.
So you have to, are we that bad on offense or defensive rebounding, or maybe we're pretty good at offensive rebounding?
Right.
You don't know until the games start that we're okay as an offensive rebounding team and woof as a defensive rebounding team. And now going forward, those are the things we have to fix when we get to the offseason, but it's not the offseason. So, the cavalry isn't coming.
No. And I think one thing to always take away from it is the fact that this does seem like a team that is together. One that where you do glance over to the bench during timeouts and things of that sort, and you do see an exuberant bunch. You see a team really pumping each other up, which is really spoke to the future of the program. Because last season we had, I don't know how many countless times we broke down certain gestures or certain facial expressions that we saw. I mean, one that bounces back in my mind was when Tari Easton was coming to the sideline and JB gave him a nice chest bump, and now neither of them are here. So I don't know how to really dive into that. But just seeing the excitement that the team has for each other and the way that they always pump each other up is something really to hang your hat on. But like you said, when things in the house are broken, like take my washers down right now. And as you mentioned, Aaron, it's Christmas time. I got to get some laundry done before I go down to Florida. The Bearcats need to find some scoring, some consistent playmaking. But it's something that might have to wait for a little while. Like you guys said, wait for the offseason. For me, wait until, I don't know, after Christmas, I guess. But it's something that does seem fixed. It seems like the base is a lot more set than it was in previous regimes or previous regime singular. Aside from that, though, Tuesday's going to be Tuesday. And then next week, we'll be able to kind of yeah, Mama do. It's going to be exciting. I did like you guys asking, Chad, you were asking JD about playing against Mamadou. And I don't know. Something tells me that they're going to start Dew. He's only started 5 games out of 12 this season. Something tells me he's going to get the starting nod in this one. If not, then who knows what that coach is doing. But
how many threes does he launch?
He's got 14 makes on the season. So I'm saying he's launching 5. Would you say 5?
Yeah, probably at least 5.
Are we cheering if he makes one? Just a small subtle cheer.
I mean, it's going to be hard for the fans not to, they're so used to cheering for when Mamadou lets loose a three. Remember how many times he would hesitate?
Yep.
And they would be like, "Come on, dude, shoot the 3."
Yep.
And then he'd shoot it, and it would go in, and the whole place would explode.
Oh, I remember you asking about that in some press conferences, and the answers were pretty short. they were because we don't want him shooting it, and it's like, oh, okay, but he's making 80%.
Yeah.
But anyway, basketball is something that it's such a long season, and even the non-conference felt like it had 4 different segments to it. So next Tuesday, not tomorrow, but next Tuesday at Houston, it's going to be, I don't know if you can say telling, but I mean, they come out and they play with the fight and the ferocity that they did against Illinois and against Arkansas and show just, kind of that gamemanship rather than what happened a little bit further down the road last weekend. Then I think that you've got to just continue to just love the trajectory of the program. And so but
if it doesn't happen, you hate the trajectory of the program?
No, I wouldn't say program. I would say the trajectory of the.
This is not a team built to compete with Houston.
No, it's not. It's one that's going to have to figure out some crazy things.
Their weaknesses are very much Houston's strengths.
Yeah. Which the craziest thing is this past Saturday, Texas Southern was top 15 in defensive rebounding percentage. And they had an ex-Houston player on their team, Bryson Gresham. It was going to be one of those true challenges that kind of you're just like, wow, okay. I mean, this team rebounded the crap out of Florida, and we didn't get to play them. But who knows? I mean, top 60 offensive rebounding team is Tennessee Tech. Tech. We'll see what can happen there. But aside from that, anything else further basketball? We kind of really don't have much else to talk about it. I mean, it was good to see David Julius also be a player that was determined to get his own in the second half at times. It seems like that's what this team has been lacking. And when the shots are falling for JD, he's a completely different player. And I think those are the two biggest takeaways from that past game.
I mean, with David, like, we know what it is, right? Like when he gets in a rhythm, he can really score.
Yeah.
He'll have some nights where everything's falling and he's at 23, 24, 25 points.
Right.
He'll have some nights where he's getting the same looks and everything's rimming out and, you know, the basketball gods are working against him.
Right.
But I like that he seems to be settling into like that role of I'm the guy that needs to go get mine.
Right.
You know, because his team other than him doesn't really have that.
And I'm not really looking into the future or anything like that, but I know that David has a possibility with the whole COVID thing to come back another season. And with a full roster with some more talent on it, I think that it would be great to have a player like David as kind of that secondary or, you know, on the floor with another big time shot creator. So I would be excited to see if that opportunity presented itself, but that's a long ways away. It's good to see him coming out of his shell a little bit. But Aaron, any last thing you want to see before the conference schedule really comes into full effect?
No, I mean, I think kind of piggybacking off what Chad was saying about David, like, this is the David DeJulius we've kind of been waiting to see the entire time he's been at Cincinnati. So to see him start to emerge as such, and, you know, people talk about we don't have the scorer, you know, we miss Keith. Why couldn't Keith have stuck around?
Keith was never an alpha scorer either. So
well, I think DeJulius looks a little bit more comfortable this year than Keith looked either of the last two seasons he was at Cincinnati. So just kind of excited to see where DDJ goes with what's currently happening. And I don't know, just it's good to see that glimpse of who DDJ was supposed to be all along.
And I agree with what Reed said here. You put it up on the screen. But I just don't know who on the team other than JD is a true catch, you know, shot ready shooter. I mean, it's just AJ possibly,
like dribble who's step back threes. There's only one guy taking step back threes.
DDJ, yeah,
and he's hitting or starting to like be more, you know, efficient with that step back. Like I think you get caught up in your emotions during a game. We're like, stop doing the step back. Well, there's just one guy doing it, and he does it like 3 times a game.
But it might be his like go-to, you know.
It clearly is a shot he's comfortable with.
Right, exactly. And I mean, some people like that little back down, little fadeaway, and shot like that. And I mean, we've got to face it. This is not a team full of creators that are going to get past you off the bounce and then kind of get everyone moving, and then the defense is out of sorts, and you find an open shooter on the outside. Just doesn't really have those pieces yet. So I think once they get those, and if they truly have that knockdown shooter, I mean, like take Daniel Skillings. If he's on one side and you get a penetration and Skillings is open, then I'm sure he's going to knock that down. Or if Skillings is able to beat you off the bounce, I'm sure he'll be able to find a player on the outside, something along those lines. And I just think it's just something that the team doesn't truly have yet.
It's offensively challenged.
Yeah.
We talked about that from the season preview. This was going to be a team that was offensively challenged. So it shouldn't be a surprise when the season starts and they're offensively challenged.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows though? It's a long season. We keep saying it, and so if things really spark and for some reason you see shots to fall out of some people that want to, then yeah.
But what I'm saying, Reed, is that JD, Micah, Mikey, they're not taking step back threes, and your complaint was with step back threes. So I know what you're saying. I'm being kind of a pain in the ass, but like JD is always ready for a catch and shoot three. Always.
100%.
Always.
Even if he waits for a second, he's fine.
He's ready.
He's fine.
Micah is usually pretty good about it. He passes up more than most, but I think Micah, because of the way he plays, has a very good understanding of like what is he in rhythm. Is he in rhythm when he lets it go? Because if he's not in rhythm, he's not going to let it go. Now maybe he could do a better job getting into that rhythm. And Mikey's not really a catch and shoot. Mikey's more of off the dribble. His shot in catch and shoot form is pretty slow. So it allows closeouts. So I don't know. Okay, Reed, you win. I give.
Brent, we were laughing earlier because Chad and I were both trying to put the comment up at the same time, and I think we tripped on each other like 2 or 3 times.
3 times in a row. We both hit display on the comment at the same time 3 times in a row. So it just like flashed.
Well, I don't even know how to do that. So you guys
don't have that access.
Yeah, we haven't given you the ability to play with the toys yet.
That's fine by me. So the craziest thing also is like Mikey has that when Mikey shoots his three, it seems like he's got that kind of a hesitation. And I'm not comparing him to this man that I'm going to mention here in a bit, but when LeBron James had that little side dribble and then he would like set afterwards and shoot the three, he was knocking those down at a high clip. Seems like Mikey's kind of got that bit of a hesitation that he goes to that might get him a little bit more comfortable to knock down the shots. I mean, however crazy it is to say, he's sitting at 110th in the country in 3-point field goal percentage, which is something that you probably would not imagine coming into the season.
It's because he's taking the ones he's comfortable with.
Right.
He's not out hunting for threes. He's taking an opportunity because what a team's shown, they've shown that they're playing off of him because they don't want him to get by.
Right.
And if they're giving him enough space, he's going to hand down, man down, and get you a look. And so far, he's been excellent at knocking those looks down.
He has. He really has.
Before we go forward, though, I mean, is there anything that you're looking for out of Wes and company as they go into conference play? Just kind of a broad overview as to what you haven't seen yet, or maybe more of what you want to see that they've shown glimpses of as they go forward.
Run the make shots offense more. If they could run the make shots offense more, I'd be happy.
Well, okay. So 2 times they went to Vic locking in the post against Xavier. Both times Vic made great post moves to easy bunny lay-ins over his shoulder. I mean, I feel like they never looked for that once. I don't know if that was a game plan. Well, they didn't have a game plan on Saturday, but it was never something that was ever there. I don't know. I guess more identity out of certain players, and I don't know if that's something that evolves throughout the season. But I want to see them kind of be like, okay, when Vic's on the floor, he's going to be the offensive scorer. He's not going to just stand at the top of the key and be the one to just continue the ball rotation. I want to see players in positions that they are best willing to succeed and have succeeded, and maybe that's what the tape shows after the non-conference. And we've already seen Wes is a phenomenal coach. He's done a bang-up job. I would want to see how some other coaches would do with a group put together like this in some tough games throughout the season so far.
I'd agree. More often than not, I think they are looking like the island of misfit toys.
Yeah.
And I think that's essentially what both of you were saying. So, no, I think that it's we keep saying it, and I know it's not necessarily an excuse. You work with what you have, but it's still a team that was put together in 30 days when you had even with guys in the transfer portal, you only had 4 guys going as you accepted a job.
I think the Vic stuff is interesting because there's still so much room for growth with him.
Absolutely.
When you saw with Xavier, they left him in single coverage where he was able to do that.
Right.
When teams have sent somebody to dig on him or, just done a more noticeable job of making sure somebody's in the area, he's turning it over a lot. So he's not even the reason it feels like he's not getting enough shots up is because he's not allowing himself the ability to get in position, to get those shots off right now.
Yeah.
There's just so much that he still has to learn about the physicality and the strategy of the American game that makes it frustrating because when he flashes, it's like, oh, baby. Right? Man, that looks really good. That looks like it's program changing. But there's still so much that now teams are getting the tape on him and starting to take away, the things that he does well. There he goes. So it's just a matter of the ebb and flow of a season. Yeah. I'm sure Wes and Mike Roberts and Kyle are working with him to get used to that. Okay, now when you get it, you're going to have to expect not only to have your guy on your hip, but the guard in your area also coming down, or the big across from you giving you a passing lane because he's coming over to stop your ability to put the ball in the basket. So it's just, we talk about it all the time here. It's the adjustments to the adjustments. And that's what takes teams that go 10-3 non-conference and allows them to go, hit 22 wins, to go 12-6 in conference. If you can execute the adjustments. If not, then you win 9-10 games in conference.
Do you guys think that the trip to Kansas City has kind of put the whole what the football team faced the entire season, the whole style points thing into just for Bearcat fans when it comes to when they're watching the games? Because, I mean, they're winning the games. Sure, they had the one against Monmouth that could have gone either way at the end. And then they had the one, obviously, don't want to talk about the other one. But aside from that, they're winning every game. And sure, at times they didn't look great against Bryant. At times they didn't look great against Ashland. But still, they're winning these games, winning them by double digits, and at most of the time they're up by more than enough during these games. But still, we want to see the same thing we saw in Kansas City. We want to see that 20-point victory team against Illinois. Is it kind of that's taken away, and the style points aren't really there, but the wins still are following?
I think that the win against Illinois in Kansas City raised expectations for the fan base for some to an unreasonable level. I mean, this is a team that we were literally arguing about before the season even started, if they're going to finish over 500 and how close to 20 we were going to get. And now we're looking at a team that should, by all expectations, flirt with, if not exceed 20 wins. And so I like I said, I mean, I think that you beating Illinois, you showed what this team's capable of, but I don't think that should be the norm. And I don't think that this team's quite there to just fire on those types of cylinders the whole season. I think that was the exception, not the rule.
Yeah. That's
I do like Ed's question though.
Chad, what former Bearcat could Vic be once all rockets are firing? As we got to make sure that the podcast.
Yeah, the podcast listeners know exactly what. Just read it, podcast listeners. Read what's on the
or hop on the YouTube.
I really don't know that there is one. Right? Like a skilled 7-foot back to the basket scorer with touch out to three and passing ability and moves pretty well defensively, can guard a little, can hold his own and switches out on the perimeter, except for when that dude from whatchamacallit, dunked all over his face last week.
Call it?
I don't remember.
What,
But, dude,
Famu?
Yeah. The bald guy from Family.
Oh, how weird was jeez. That guy took off twice.
I don't know if there is one.
I mean, like, do you say Kyle with
No.
his inside outside? No, well, no, I'm just saying just from certain aspects offensively. I don't think he has that go-to, post move yet, but I mean, he's shown it a couple of times.
No, I don't think their games are. I mean, I don't think their games are similar.
Right.
Kyle was trying to get to like 12 to 15 feet to hit that baby hook, right? Like,
yeah.
I think that's the thing, though, about the evolution of basketball to where it's at right now is you have so many players currently, unlike anything that's come before them. The focus isn't on the down low game. The focus isn't on, the power, anything down low, rebounds, any of that stuff. It's just establishing the perimeter.
Yeah. I mean, he shows glimpses of, and yet again, I'm throwing out NBA superstars. Throwing out NBA superstars, but he's got glimpses of Jokic in his game. I think just that European style. He does. In very small glimpses. I'm not talking. Oh, here we go. I'm not saying he's Nikola Jokic. I'm not saying he's going to win the MVP this season in the NBA. But you do see certain times where you're just like, oh, wow. That was a high IQ play. But honestly, those are all kind of in the beginning before the scouting report came out. But that was when things were clicking.
If you're going to try and compare a center in the NBA, I'd go more like a Kristaps Porzingis than I would a Nikola Jokic. But Jokic is thick.
Vic is pretty thick.
Jokic's skill level, it's nowhere even close in terms of like what Jokic does, passing and handling the ball. And
right. But
we've seen Vic try to handle the ball a couple times, and it is not Nikola Jokic.
He had a couple in the beginning of the season
that
looked all right, and then I think it was the Arkansas game after he had a good Illinois showing. He had a couple coast to coast that were should have probably dished it off a little earlier.
A little, yeah, a touch, just a touch earlier.
Right, just a touch.
Look, if you're going to make NBA comparisons, can we at least do it with not MVPs?
Yeah, well, you know what? But like for the casual listener who doesn't follow the NBA, would they understand some of those?
Yeah, and then they expect him to be an NBA MVP because Brent Young from the Bearcat Bounce podcast said this guy plays like Nikola Jokic.
Talk about exceeding expectations.
Shoot for the moon, you might fall on a star, or whatever that saying goes.
Get out.
Where's Brent's mute button?
Okay. 3-point jump shot yet. Oh, am I back? We haven't seen the 3-point jump shot yet.
We have not. He's attempted. Fine. He's attempted a couple, but he hasn't.
You want me to say
any yet.
That Vic is like a Goga Batatsky? How about that? There we go.
That way they got to work to go figure out who that is.
Yeah,
and then it keeps things reasonable.
He was sent down. He had a good game for the Mad Ants last week. I saw. So hopefully he gets brought back up. Maybe that's the 9 minutes zero shot attempts that Vic had against Ashland. Bring him back up for Tuesday.
Unreal.
Oh well, but no, the future's bright. He's young. He's out. He's been out of organized basketball for a while. And you got to remember, he's coming off.
He still gets winded pretty quick.
Yeah, he's coming off a serious injury too. Those aren't things that you just work yourself back from.
Right.
So I don't know. There's still so many pieces on the team that you see little glimpses of. You get so excited about. And like even AJ McGinnis on last Tuesday was getting me excited.
He ain't afraid to let it fly, boy.
No, he's not.
He was in the game for 4 seconds, and he had a 3-point attempt.
It was good.
The first time the ball touched his hands, he was like, "Zah!"
His shot looks good.
That's AJ. Reed wants everybody to play like AJ McGinnis.
Yeah,
because as soon as that ball touches his fingertips, there's a pretty good chance it's going towards the rim.
He's got a clip, man. But and then you look, and AJ only had like 3 minutes in the last game. I don't know. Saturday was weird. Let's just go ahead and say Saturday was weird. There's no other way to put it. You go up against a D2 opponent where you didn't game plan really at all, and yes, you do coast a little bit, because in pickup games, that's when the other team says, "All right, we're done. Yeah. Next." But they didn't say next in this one. So anyway, it was a victory. Tuesday night is a big game, and then that following Tuesday, oh boy, we'll see.
I'm not excited about that.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
Just as long as, not quite like the last time they went to Houston, then that's a plus.
I don't think there's any chance you're going to see Houston getting upset and breaking things on their way out. Let's just put it that way.
Well, the Bearcats would have to goaltend a game-tying shot in the process in order for that to happen. So something along those lines. But yeah, I don't think they're going to be breaking anything either. Maybe my heart.
Records.
Jesus, PC. Not that. Not that.
Look, man. I try to keep it as real as possible.
Yeah.
The things Houston does well are also all of the things Cincinnati does not do well, and that's not great.
Yeah.
It's not great. I know, Reed. I'm just joking around. Reed says not everybody. He just wants when someone drives into the paint and kicks it to a wide open guard for them to shoot. We're just saying it's not any of them that are good shooters right now.
It's a work in progress. We're getting there.
Number 9 offensive rebounding team in the country, and number 5 defensive efficiency in the country.
Not great, Bob.
But how about the Bearcats? Do you know the Bearcats are second in effective field goal percentage defense?
I mean, defensively, they've been solid.
They have been.
They're not letting teams shoot high clips from 3. Now, they haven't really played. They played some good teams, but they haven't really played teams that really fill it up.
Right.
To date. So, and let's be honest, playing in the American, they're really not gonna. So that'll probably stay at a pretty high number all year.
Because this league looks like they might be
stinks.
Memphis looks like they might be back, but other than that, there's a drop off that is very bad.
How about Penny getting flat out caught in a straight lie?
When was that?
Saturday.
What?
You haven't seen this whole fiasco?
No. Was it about the COVID stuff or?
Yeah. So coming into the season, he said 90% of the team was vaccinated. Okay.
Yeah.
So Saturday morning, they had one of the players woke up and felt sick. So they got tested. They were positive. The roommate got tested. The roommate was positive. And via contact tracing, if you're not vaccinated, you automatically go into quarantine. You go into protocol.
Yeah.
By the time that played out, they had 4 players that were able to play.
Eligible, yeah.
Maybe math isn't his forte. I mean, either that or just Aaron Rodgers did the whole thing.
Oh, he 100% Aaron Rodgers the whole thing.
No, he meant 90% of the starting 5, which is roughly 4.
You can't have.
That was a joke, guys. It was a joke. But I mean, some people out there would probably laugh at that joke, so I'm okay with getting the blank stare from you guys.
I mean, you were the one saying that you wanted to feel like you were on the PTP earlier, and now I feel like I'm working with Ed.
Well, anyway, here's what we're thinking. What do you got? What are your thoughts? Because this is the first. I mean, I just want to touch on it quickly. I don't want to really dive too far into it, but this is the first week in a long time that we really started to see the whole COVID effect on not only college basketball, but sports as a whole. And obviously it was because of a spike and whatnot. And I don't want to get too, into it, whatever. other way other than sports. Is this anything like too serious, or are we kind of just in the sense where stay positive, stay healthy, and just continue playing? It had me scared because I become an optimist until there's a lot of pessimism, and this past week was starting to fill in with a lot of.
I'm an optimist until I'm a pessimist.
No, until pessimism smacks me in the face, and I spend 4 hours on a Texas Southern article that I didn't even play.
Well, I mean, obviously some people are kind of up in their feels about the autograph session that Dez did this weekend and some different things with that, as the concern lies in the fact that there are spike numbers and what have you. But I know I talked to Chad about it, and Chad brought up the point that who right now is missing the opportunity to go out and make money? I mean,
that got canceled though, didn't it?
What, the autograph session with Dez?
Yeah,
I don't believe so.
Yeah,
it did, but there was still you had to pay for a meet and greet and autograph. He still did something.
Not that day. Saturday it got canceled. There might have been something Sunday that followed it.
Right.
But the Saturday one, like shortly before it happened, it got canceled.
Right, the big one, yeah. But there was another one. I saw someone tweeting pictures about it and things like that. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
I guess it came out tonight that Bama is going back to their basically COVID level restrictions, 2020 protocol.
The team?
Yeah, the whole program.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
I believe Cincinnati they practice tomorrow. The initial plan was, and I haven't heard this has changed, so that this is my understanding of the plan. Thursday is off. So, the locals can go home and do Christmas and all that.
Right.
And then Friday report back, and then Saturday's Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Sunday, you have to report. Tomorrow and Friday are off. Saturday report back. Sunday they leave for Dallas. So we'll see if that changes.
Yeah. I mean, knock on wood. It's just a weird thing. You saw the NFL and the NBA come out with the whole, if you're vaccinated and asymptomatic or whatnot, then you're okay. And different things of that sort. I'm not going to act like I know anything about the topic because, a lot of people use some of their brain for politics and some of their brain for this kind of stuff. I don't. Mine's college basketball, college football, NFL, NBA, MLB, and golf. That's literally all that's out there. And then my day job takes up way too much than it should right now. But aside from that, I really don't know much about the topic. But it scares you when you see it. And I don't think it'll be as drastic as 2020 ever was. Maybe a fan restriction or something along those lines. But
look, make no mistake. They're playing the college semifinals and finals.
Oh, there's yeah. I mean, no doubt.
That's happening.
Yeah.
Not in question. Not up for debate at all.
Right.
So we'll see what it looks like.
Should we talk about that team that's going to be playing in this college football playoff?
I mean, it is the Bearcat Bounce podcast.
It's pretty insane that there's this team called the Bearcats, and they're bouncing their way over to the playoffs. Don't you PTP me about that one, Aaron? Right? Anyway.
Huh.
Jeez.
But there was so coach of the year, yet again, none other than Luke Fickell. Big time moment for Luke Fickell. And we continue to see these awards given out left and right and in and out. And before we get to those awards, I want to ask Chad Brendel and Aaron Smith to tell me about the times that you guys went to practice last week. Because I know we got little snippets, a mention of Evan Prater's big day here, a couple other things there. But first off, tell me a little bit more about this puke smell. And then aside from that, who else kind of was really stepping out and showing you guys something? Because obviously this is a team that we've mentioned it numerous times. When spring football rolls around next year, that's going to be when these practice reports will be like hot off the press. Who's looking good now, here and there. This team's already kind of, we know who they are to this point. But who kind of caught your eye? What storylines were you really following? And just an overall view of it. And of course, the stinky smell.
Well, I know we hit on it a couple times over the course of the nightcaps over the last week or so. But yeah, I mean, we were both happy that I know I can speak for Chad on this, that we were both happy that we were wearing masks in the bubble, so we didn't have to smell what the actual bubble smelled like.
What was it? Did you guys ever find out?
So I know what they're blaming it on. I don't know if I believe them, but they're blaming it on the Gatorade being dumped into the like drainage system in the bubble and going bad. That's what they're blaming it on.
So some
but I've never experienced Gatorade that smelled like vomit. So I'm skeptical.
Stinky sugar. Okay.
Aaron, do you buy the spoiled Gatorade story?
Looking at the shape that bubble is in, absolutely not.
Right? I'm convinced like somebody threw up in the bubble, like working out or, a team practicing or whatever. Somebody got sick in the bubble and it didn't get cleaned. And so the bubble smelled like vomit for a week.
Was it in one area or the whole thing?
It was mainly when you walked in, but even if you were on the other side, it still was there. Like, it's the first time in 18 months where I've been like, thank God for this mask.
I wish
what would I do if I didn't have this mask on?
Who knows?
Wasn't good.
Practice-wise,
last week we got to look at some of the young guys. A lot of like positional work, a lot of sharpening of skills for the veteran guys. Fights. They didn't push them too hard last week. It was more like get a good sweat.
Right.
And then the last like 30 minutes of practice, you got to start to see some of the young guys flying around. What I love about when those things, like, it's only 20-30 minutes, so nobody really gets a chance to like, oh my God, wow you. But those guys were getting after it, like really, really physical, playing really hard, trying to, this is their last chance to make an impression going into spring, right? So I was really impressed with like, again, we've talked about this a lot, like coming out of camp, some of the most fun stuff from camp was watching the third team.
Yeah.
And that's never been the case here. But watching the third team to see, because that's where, I don't know that outside of threats and the rake, that there was a freshman from the 2021 class on the two deep. So if you wanted to get a look at the young guys, like you had to watch the threes. And you got to see a lot of that again. I will say, as good as Evan Prater was last Tuesday, he struggled today. So, and then I think that's the frustrating part with Evan.
Yeah.
Is there are these flashes of how good he can be, but there's an underlying concern of the consistency that it takes to be good at this level, right? Because if your quarterback is off for a full practice, then your receivers don't really get any work, right?
Right.
And your DBs don't really get any work because the quarterback was off.
Yeah.
So I think that's where they really need to see him take the next step. Is I'm going to be able to do this. It doesn't have to be every time, but it needs to be better than, like every other time. Like great practice, bad practice, great practice, bad practice. Like where's Evan has to find his middle ground, and then he has to elevate his middle ground. Mm-hmm. And that's where he's at in this process right now.
Yeah. So, Aaron, any main players or main plays or anything of that sort kind of really stick out to you?
I mean, I was only there the one day last week, as opposed to the couple practices Chad's been able to take in. And what I saw from Prater, I mean, Chad and I just literally were just looking at each other like, oh, like that was impressive. I mean, and that was last week. So it's, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where last week's practice, I'm sure, was entirely different than what we're seeing here with what's going on. And as they, strap down and really get to work on what they're prepping for with Alabama. So it's whatever Chad can give us. I'm sure we're all going to soak in, but I'm antsy. To see.
I really can't give a lot from today because today was that first day of game prep.
Right.
Yeah.
Which what I will say about today though was today was that first feeling of like, this is happening, right? The scout team jerseys were back on. They didn't have scout team jerseys on last week because it was, it was just like a camp practice kind of.
Yeah.
Now it's game prep, and seeing these veterans get into game prep mode, like the smiles, like Aaron, there was last week, there was a lot of joking around, right? They were having fun.
I'll even go back to last week, and maybe you didn't feel this way because you see this team every single week. But compared to the last time that I saw them practice, which was all the way back in higher ground, that's the last football practice that I took in. It was weird to see coaches really getting after it with the guys. And you saw some of that even last week. That was the most involved in a practice I've seen even Luke vocally. A lot of times he sits back, especially at higher ground, kind of taking it all in, arms crossed, and kind of letting the other coaches, kind of go in on the guys. But he was very involved as far as like even just teaching scheme and how to come off a block or what he wanted somebody to do in this particular drill. And I'm sure that that's only intensified as they're getting closer and closer to the biggest game in this program's entire history.
Yeah, I think last week was more of a coach's week in that, it was a lot of prepping the young guys and, just making sure the vets got their work in, but not like pushing them to the limit quite yet because they know what's coming up, right? They know what's next in this process, and that's getting ready to play Alabama. But you could definitely, and I'm obviously not going to get into it today because I'm not giving anything away, but you could definitely see like they've been in the film room breaking down a lot of Alabama. And today there was a lot of like, okay, maybe that's how they're going to try to handle this, or maybe that's how they're going to try to, go after that. The one thing I'll say today, it got back to, there was like 5 or 6 snaps today where scout team offensive line, Myjay was just like
pummeled.
You just have to laugh because it's not fair.
Right.
He speed rushed whoever, I can't remember, and it's impossible to tell at times because they have the scout team numbers on, which are Bama's numbers and not the numbers that they normally wear. Mm-hmm. Whoever was scout team left tackle at one point in time, the ball snapped and Myjay just ran by him to the quarterback. Like he was standing, like he was in quicksand.
and no one can go and look at the depth chart because Cam Jones is out. So don't be jumping to conclusions there. But no, so
it was a walk-on of some kind. I just don't know which one it was.
There we go. So would you guys say kind of there's, a lot of people have mentioned the wrinkles of, not really trick plays, but certain things that Alabama might not be expecting. Did you guys get the sense of like not really giving away anything, but that, hey, like this looks like a staff that is overly comfortable with what they have right now, or did you sense any tenseness or kind of just because obviously you got game prep for Alabama starting today. Before that, Alabama is still going to be in the back of your mind, even if you don't want it to be. Was it kind of just the same as you've been seeing since, like you said, Aaron, during fall practice, at Campfire Ground, or is it kind of look like they're a little bit more locked in, or is it kind of just, hey, we've ridden this wave all the way to here, let's keep on riding?
They are who they are.
Right.
I don't think that's changing at this point. Like,
which should be the answer. That should be the answer.
Yeah, I mean, did I see some things that looked a little different today in terms of like some of the things they were working on? Like specifically, this is what we think Bama's going to do. This is how we think we're going to counter it. Yeah. But did I see them look, different than they've looked all season? No.
Right. Which is awesome. Which is how it should be. Which I am beyond excited and thrilled to see kind of all the talk that award-wise and draft prospect-wise that these Cincinnati players are getting. We talked about it ad nauseum, but now the rest of the country is finally starting to see, like, wow, they've got 6 players and top 150, different things of that sort.
But make no mistake, Nick Saban's telling his wide receiver room,
yeah,
oh, these are the best 2 corners in the country. Okay,
yep.
Okay. Let's see if you guys are up to snuff against the best 2 corners in the country. Like, that target on their back is going to be substantial.
Yeah.
Substantial as we get to New Year's Eve.
It is. And Alabama has the perpetual target on their back. So
sure.
It's kind of one of those things where everyone
should.
Yeah. Everyone mentioned last year the whole Georgia's not going to show up, this, that, and the other. And I have seen little inklings of that when it comes to Alabama and their thoughts on things. How and we're going to get a lot more into depth about Alabama all next week, especially on the BBP. Hopefully I figure someone out that could come on and chat Crimson Tide with us for a little bit. But, it just was kind of that talk of, the only reason that Alabama could struggle in this game is if they, take Cincinnati lightly and come out slow and different things of that sort. I don't think there's any chance of that happening in this one. I mean, maybe if certain players might think it, but as a whole, I really don't think it'll be that, because Cincinnati has gotten as much talk of any team probably that played Alabama in this first round of the college football playoffs. So it's going to be lights on from the get-go, and I think that's what the Bearcats knows coming at them as well.
Sorry, I just got confirmation on our guest for the Wednesday night BCJ podcast this week.
Oh, who you guys having on?
I'm excited about this one.
Okay.
We've had our parade of national guests all year.
Right.
I think this one might be my favorite.
Okay.
Dan Wetzel.
Danny Wetzel.
From the College Football Inquirer podcast with our friend Pete Thamel and Pat Forty.
Pat Forty. Yeah.
I'm geeked about that, because I think listening to that podcast and getting to know Dan Wetzel a little bit through that, I think he's gonna vibe really well with Dave and I. I think we're gonna have a fun podcast on Wednesday.
Yeah, he's got some good personality in that.
Yeah, I think he's gonna mesh with us really well. So I'm excited for Dan Wetzel joining us, and he's with Yahoo. He does great investigative reporting. He's a must follow in the college football space, and I think we're gonna have some fun on Wednesday night. So sorry, I was interrupted there, but I was communicating with Dan to lock that up for the podcast on Wednesday night. Aaron, I will get you his email to send him the StreamYard link.
Sounds good.
Sorry for the disruption, but
breaking news.
Breaking news.
Hey, we got
Dan Wetzel joining us.
BCJ Pod. Hey, it's the family of networks all coming through.
The BCJ Podcast Network.
Yeah.
We added the Cincinnati Football Recruiting Podcast last week.
Mm-hmm.
So we're onward and upward. We're keeping to blow up.
There we go. Rock and roll. Do we want to look at any of these questions in the comments? I just found the button where I can click and look at them. I didn't know if this is.
I was going to drop them in as we went through the mailbag.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's wait till then because mailbag's kind of light, so it'll be good to have
kind of
them
light this week.
So we'll do the quick superlative thing because I don't see another time that we'll be able to do it other than after the season, but that'll be kind of more of a look into the future type ordeal. And this is Chad's favorite thing. Chad reached out to Aaron and I earlier this weekend and said, "Hey guys, I really love doing superlatives of the season as kind of a recap because it's kind of a slower week." And I said, "Whoa, you know how much I love this content, man." And that's all I said. So we're gonna do what Chad wants to do. We're gonna do a little bit of superlatives, and this is not gonna be, we're not gonna say, hey, this guy was the best player on the offensive side because he put up these stats. I want you guys to get a little tricky with it, have a little fun with it, shake and groove with it. Give me a little added charades with it. And we're gonna start with this. We are gonna start with the offensive MVP. MVP is not always the player that puts up the biggest stats and whatnot, but kind of the one that you guys saw throughout the season. And I think it's a pretty easy answer. A couple 1, 2, 3, or 4. But if you guys had to give out the MVP overall offensively, who are we giving that one to?
I feel like it would be Des Ridder. I mean, just given everything that he's done, and that's not very much higher than Jerome Ford.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be tempted to go with Ford, man. I know it's Dez. It's Dez.
It's real close.
But what, 1,400 yards, 17 touchdowns? Like, Jerome Ford had himself a year.
And when Ford was on, the offense had a different level to it. Yes, there were certain games when Ford wasn't really getting his own or he was out that they really flourished as well. But yeah, Ford was kind of that player when he would break a big run or two, it would kind of be that extra score that would boost the team forward to just coasting the rest of the way. So
and it would be from 80 yards.
Right, exactly.
Like he is the epitome of a home run hitter.
Yeah,
because it's one of in terms of, and I don't think even Pete had this as much as Ford did.
Agreed.
Where you would know within 1 second of the handoff, right?
Yeah.
If you saw him hit that hole and race into the secondary, you're instantly just like, touchdown. That's 6. That dude's gone.
Aaron would know because I would hit him in the press box every single time that he was would get past the linebackers. I'd be like, "Yep."
Are we getting kicked out of Jerry World?
Yeah. Yes.
I feel like we're not allowed to sit next to each other.
If we win, I'm finding Jerry Jones. I don't care if he's not even there.
The other big news: all 4 BCJ credentials approved. We'll be rolling deep at Jerry World.
And you know what? The biggest question is this: after they win, knock on wood, where are we all going afterwards?
I'm going to Cincinnati.
Oh, you're going home already?
Yeah.
Wait, you guys are leaving right after the game?
Yep.
You too, Aaron?
I'm there, and I'm leaving the morning of the 2nd.
Ooh, Aaron, we'll have to see what's going on.
I've got a basketball game to cover Saturday night.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to remember Saturday night if we win.
Well, Friday night is the game.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're not going to remember Friday night, Saturday night, probably part of Sunday as your mom drives home.
I'll just be happy if I get back to Cincinnati and know my name.
Yeah, we find you somewhere random and you got to buy one of those $1,100 plane tickets back home.
As long as I don't end up in Tijuana or anything crazy.
You might end up in Mexico, but Tijuana is a long way from Dallas.
We'd have to go to San Diego first.
Things get crazy once you get over the border. Things get real crazy.
Aaron, I'm kind of liking the thought of me and you New Year's Eve night. Strap it on. Let's get it rolling. Anyway,
yeah, I'm in the car rolling back to the Natty once we get rolling back to the Natty to get ready to cover the Natty. If you know what I'm saying. Not
sure you'll be able to yes, I do know what you're saying, but
what's this Brent Young's #1 fan? Is your mom in here?
I don't know, but it's hilarious. And
no idea.
There you go.
I posted that already. Brent laughed.
A person, well, I mean, it's obviously someone who listens to more than just this. So my guess is skins would be my guess.
I also thought that.
It's my guess. But
and thank you on the Players Roundtable. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was a good time.
How about Aaron stepping up in Dave's shoes?
Yeah. It was fun. A lot of fun on that
riding shotgun on the BCJ pod.
Had no idea it was even happening until it was happening.
That was a blast. I didn't know that it would go that well. Because you never know, like you're dealing with people that don't really, those guys all are former players, but they're not exactly like guys that hang in the same circles per se. And we need a Ben Mock podcast. Need a Ben Mock podcast. But yeah, it's Dez. Boy, I'd be tempted to go with Jerome Ford.
Yep.
Boy, I'd be tempted to go with Jerome Ford. The defensive player of the year one is going to be.
And I want to say Alec Pierce too, because man,
Pierce had a phenomenal season.
That
I don't
Notre
know that
Dame
he's
game
up in
was
that.
Kind of right.
I think he's at the top of that next group.
Yeah.
If I had to go 1, 2, 3, it would be Ritter, Ford, Pierce.
Yeah, I agree. So we aren't hopping over to defense quite yet because we have to go with the offensive biggest surprise.
Biggest surprise to us or biggest surprise in general? Because Tyler Scott was not a surprise to us.
Right, but
I think if you were an outsider, like if you were just a casual fan when this season started, you knew very little about Tyler Scott.
Mm-hmm.
The fans that had a Bearcat Journal membership obviously knew our affinity for what we thought Tyler Scott was going to be able to do. But even like Trey Tucker had a great year, but Trey Tucker had been a guy that everybody was excited about because he had kickoff return for a touchdown. He had made some big plays. Like I think everybody was excited for Trey Tucker. I don't think nearly as many people knew yet about Tyler Scott. So I would have to go biggest surprise, Tyler Scott.
Well, Mr. Merck J just stole mine.
I was going to go, and I haven't. Dang, I didn't even see his. I was in a different screen messing around with a ticker. I was literally going to say Mets as well. Just knowing what we knew about him last year with all the issues he had with the false starts and penalties and just trying to figure it all out, put it all together. Lorenz Metz has been fantastic this year, filling in for wherever he was really needed.
It's just he filled in right guard because Vinny got mono.
Vinny, yeah.
In all of this that's going on, Vinny got mono and lost like 30 pounds.
When I say wherever he was needed, I mean, it was sometimes starter duty, sometimes fill-in duty, sometimes mop-up duty. Like it wasn't always necessarily the same role he was always playing, if you will. But yeah, I mean, Metz was, in my opinion, I think the biggest surprise.
Yeah. Metz was my pick. But let's pull out another one. Let's roll with oh man. I mean, the answer is what you guys have already said, Tyler Scott or Lorenz Metz. I mean, I guess you could maybe say possibly. I mean, Dylan O'Quinn, we knew what we were going to get at him, but he was
not
so
at tackle, not at right tackle,
right? And he was just so rock solid.
I think O'Quinn deserves a mention here.
Yeah, he was a player that you plugged in there and you didn't get worried about. And then when there was some befuddlement at other positions, you were like, should we move Dylan O'Quinn over there to solve that? And that's just a testament to how good he really was. And, we mention it a lot. Whenever you don't mention the offensive lineman, it's a good thing, more likely than not. So I think Dylan O'Quinn did a really good job. Tunstall did pretty solid as well. I think he obviously had some games that were down, some matchups that were against his liking. But, I mean, overall, the offensive line was really starting to click as the season wore on. So, yeah, I think Metz, Tyler Scott, and Dylan O'Quinn, there's no doubt.
If we hadn't seen the camp that we saw out of Lenny, I think you could have included Lenny as one of those surprises as well. But
people were still talking about Lenny as an NFL guy, though, coming into
we knew
so many weapons that it's just like Lenny's had those games, especially the Notre Dame game. He had like 3 catches, I think, but he made the most of all 3. So, yeah, I think, I mean, Lenny would be, I really hope he comes back because that would be a lot of fun to have him be one of the main targets for this team next year. But anyway, next up is defensive MVP. This is an interesting one because the defense really, they kind of all really sparked together. But I don't know. Answers, guys.
It has to be Sauce because I've never seen anyone successly eliminate an entire side of the field. Like I've never seen anything like that. Like, like the Jets, like Revis Island when they joked about that. Revis still gave up, a catch or 2 here or there. Like, the guy didn't give up more than 20 yards in a game.
Right.
The entire season. He didn't, again, for the 3rd year, he didn't give up a touchdown. So we aren't going to get a full appreciation for what Sauce did until next year. Yeah. When the boundary is open again, right? Right? Like when the boundary is open again next year, we're going to be like, what the shit? Like, what are they doing completing passes to this guy? How is their number 1 receiver making plays on us?
I mean, it's so crazy to the fact that Sauce Gardner, teams didn't even look his way to the point that he would come freely on blitzes and light up quarterbacks left and right. I mean, yeah.
It's Sauce.
And then it's crazy to say that, though, when you've got the Thorpe Award winner on the other side. You've got 2
The question is number 2.
2 linebackers who really just were extremely good throughout the entire season. And then another one who's kind of shared time, but is a budding star. Then you have a defensive lineman. And I'm not even talking about the one that everyone talks about on all the draft boards.
The other one was the one that would be in this conversation.
Yeah, an absolute beast who was this defense was playing at their best when he was playing at his best. I don't know. The answer is Sauce. The answer is Sauce, but number 2.
Aaron, who's your number 2?
I mean, as much as I want to say Kobe, I think I'd probably go to Blanco, and with Pace as a number 3. But I think I'd still go to Blanco. He held the middle of the field down all season long, and he was just solid always.
Wore some fire glasses in the post-game press conference.
There was that.
Yeah. Chad,
Brent?
I
want your number 2.
Mine is Curtis Brooks. I said in the beginning of the season that the defensive line in the trenches would be at their best if Curtis Brooks was a first-team all-conference player. Yeah, with the snarl. He absolutely dominated certain games, moments of certain games. And, I mean, you talk about some of the great interior defensive linemen that the team has had throughout, the past 5 years. You have to mention him in the same breath with the Copelands and with, Cortez Broughton, and you continue to go through, even Ponder didn't play on the inside, but he kind of had the same effect on a game like what Curtis Brooks had. And when Brooks was just dominating in the interior line, you could just see that defense take a different notch. He benefited a lot from the attention that Majay got on the outside.
Of course. But we thought it was going to be the other end that benefited from the attention Majay got. It was Brooks.
Right.
But, hey, Mark, shut up. Shut up, bro.
Oh, no, I agree with him, too. But I got to give a shout out. I got to give a shout out to Curtis because Curtis deserves it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Brian Cook. Like, there could have been, and pretty much Curtis Brooks is maybe my number 3. Like the problem is there's like 7 right answers to this question.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we didn't even mention Darian
Beavers, DeBlanco,
Majay double teamed every play.
Right. Like there's a whole lot of right answers to this question. But man, with the loss of Wig and the loss of Defoe, this team could have been hurting at safety, man.
Yeah.
They could have been hurting at safety. And like Cook just personified. I think he kind of became the internal heartbeat of this defense, right? He was banged up all year. And every Tuesday, that guy was out there at practice. Like multiple like nicks and bumps and bruises that most guys would have taken a couple days off.
Yeah.
And they had to put him in the red jersey. Like they had to like limit him and protect him from himself.
That's a bad man right there.
That's a bad man, bro. And to have the path that he had, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wanted him out of high school.
Right.
Had one scholarship offer to Howard. Went to Howard for 2 years, balled out, came home, had the city year, which was a smart thing to do because at the time you don't think I'm getting on the field with Wiggins and Forrest. Then Wig blows his knee out. I agree, Tony. Cook was the enforcer on that defense. Like, he is such a nice kid. Man, now, not a kid anymore. Such a nice dude.
Yeah.
But he puts that helmet on, boy, and you know he's coming. You know he's coming. And we saw it. We saw a preview of it in the Peach Bowl last year.
Yep.
I'm gonna make a bold prediction. He gets drafted higher than Wiggins and Forrest did.
Ooh.
I hope so because he deserves it. And you know what, Chad? You mentioned his big game in the Peach Bowl. He had a big game against Notre Dame too.
He did.
He was him and Hicks were both singled against Mayer a couple times.
Yeah.
And Mayer somehow throughout the game ended up really getting hurt and kept on going, but still it was
Brian
Cook. But you really saw Brian Cook's effect on a game when the bright lights were on.
Yeah.
And Peach Bowl, man, he was the one that was flying and making the hits and really just being the kind of the difference maker on the defense. Him and I thought Arquan had a really good game. Arquan got beat once or twice, but I mean, that's to be expected when you're told pregame that you're getting matched up with Pickens the entire game. But
right. And when Georgia's whole game plan was, we have to just throw it deep and hope something happens.
Right.
Because we can't do shit else against this defense.
Right. Exactly.
We can't run on them. We can't throw on them to the flats. We can't beat them to the edge. We have to just chuck it over the top.
Yeah.
And hope something happens.
Have a first round draft pick, have 2 diving catches and
right.
Yeah.
I just, man, if I'm picking a dude, well, and maybe this is kind of how my thought process is.
Yeah.
If I'm picking a dude to go to war with on that defense,
yeah.
First it's Sauce.
Yeah.
Second, I think it's Cook.
I mean,
and partly because he scares the shit out of me.
Like we've said, you couldn't go wrong with picking quite a few of them. So.
Yeah, there's like 7.
Yeah,
there are 7 second best players on this defense.
it's crazy to think that you can literally just be like, "Yep, that works." No, oh yeah, that one works too. But anyway, that leads us to biggest surprise of the defense, and I think Aaron already kind of mentioned him as the second best, which means that he was one heck of a surprise, guys.
In DeBlanco, in Pace, or in Kobe?
Pace.
Actually, the answer is probably Kobe.
Kobe winning the Thorpe Award.
Yeah.
I agree. That's who I was going to go with.
Kobe being named the best defensive back in America.
Right.
What were the odds on that in Vegas to start the season?
0.
Right? Like
off the board.
Off the board. We're not letting you win that much money.
My pick's Pace still. Because we kind of knew Kobe. You know, and yes, this
we knew
year
Kobe was good. We didn't know Kobe was great.
Right. And in the same sense, we knew Pace was good. We didn't know that he was going to be splitting shares and still ending up as like a top 3 tackler on the team.
Yeah.
And leading the team in interceptions and just so many things that he did throughout the season. Like that IU game, you go back and watch that, and sure, Indiana became terrible, but in that game, they were every bit as good as any team in the country, and they were playing lights out. Deshaun Pace made some monster plays throughout that game, whether it be a tackle for a loss or, you know, a tackle that prevented a big gain, and then of course the interception at the end. So, I mean, Pace surprised me, and he is someone that I see every pregame out on the field, and I'm like, man, that kid is turning into just a beast. It looks like he's grown. Yeah, it looks like he's grown a couple inches throughout the year somehow, and he looks the part. No, what? I'm just visually. He looks the part, and I mean, he's my pick for the biggest surprise because I knew Kobe was going to be there on the other side. I didn't know he was going to be that good, but
right. And
we worried. There was a worry about Kobe. Like, if nobody throws at Sauce, is Kobe going to be able to hold up?
Yeah.
And it actually held up so well, people stopped throwing at Kobe.
Right.
And they started throwing at Bush and Hicks whenever they could get Bush and Hicks into coverage. So, yeah.
It was wild.
Pace is not the wrong answer.
Yeah.
But I think Kobe, he took a leap. He didn't take a step in his performance. He took a leap in his performance.
And honestly, you consider if he hadn't, what would have happened as people picked on him as opposed to
right.
I mean, he stepped up literally in the spotlight. Like,
if the tape got out that he was the weak link,
all eyes.
It could have got ugly.
All eyes were on him. And I mean, I know people didn't love him playing 7 yards off the ball. It turns out
that's
worked.
A scheme.
That's
not his call.
Right. But it turns out it worked. And it worked well enough to only get him heralded as the best defensive back in the country. So
second best defensive back on his team. Best defensive back in the country.
He had
maybe the third best defensive back on his team, but that's an argument for a different day.
He had all eyes on him, and he stepped into the role and relished it, and it was exactly what you want out of such a leader on this team.
Yeah, he is the leader of that defense. Like while Cook's the enforcer, like kind of the heartbeat, the physicality, Kobe is the dude that they listen to.
And a quick mention as well of Javon Hicks. I don't think that he got enough praise for not.
He had a good year.
He had a good year. He wasn't mentioned negatively, which is something at safety you can really easily get picked on as, wow, he let that one over the top. And I think his sophomore year, he was obviously a huge playmaker, but I think he was susceptible to letting a couple of plays get over the top. And that didn't happen this year. And that's also a hat tip to the pressure up front and the two cornerbacks locking down as well. So, I mean, it's awesome when they click as a whole. Next up is offensive underclassmen with the most promise. And this could be from the games. This could be from what you saw in practice. This could be from what you've heard.
It's an easy answer, right?
If you're going with the games.
Right, like just an underclassman, meaning a sophomore or below?
Sophomore or below.
Any sophomore or below?
Any sophomore or below.
Jake Renfro. Jake Renfro is going to play center in the NFL for a long time.
But we already knew that he was good, I guess. I know.
I'm answering the question I was asked. If you're making me do superlatives,
go with your answer.
I'm answering the question that I was fucking asked.
I guess I forget about him because at being a sophomore,
because he seems like a senior, right?
Right. So I was going with Ethan Wright because I mean the kid doesn't stop. He's exactly what you look for in a guy
on offense or defense.
On offense.
Starting safety for your Cincinnati Bearcats.
But yeah, I mean, we saw everything that we wanted to see out of him because that was a big question mark we had going into the season as to who's going to back up Jerome Ford. And we knew Jerome Ford was capable of being a bell cow. Jerome Ford misses some games, and we're able to see some guys, Chuck McClellan, get on the field and show us, hey, my knees work again. Ethan Wright, get out there and just go. We got to see a little bit out of the Montgomerys. So good to see Ethan Wright get in there and just show us what he was capable of.
Yeah. My pick was Tyler Scott. We had that as the biggest surprise as well, but I think that he is developing into a receiver that the staff is very comfortable with, that the staff and the offense as a whole is dedicated certain parts of the offensive drive to. Ryan Montgomery he's technically a sophomore, right?
COVID.
Yes.
Technically.
19. Right. Well, no.
Carried the one.
Ryan Montgomery showed some glimpses as well. But if I have to go to the running back room and look at a player that kind of made me be like, wow, this guy runs angrily, and I'm excited to see what he has as it moves on. I'm going with Ethan Wright out of that group, but my pick is Tyler Scott, and I honestly think as well, Jaden Thompson.
That's what I was going to say. If I'm going to pick a young wide receiver that's set to break out,
yeah,
Jaden Thompson, because I think you're going to see Jaden Thompson at the boundary to replace Alec Pierce.
right.
Like he'll be the leader in the clubhouse for that job going into next year.
Yeah.
So you'll have him in the boundary, Tyler Scott in the field, Trey Tucker in the slot.
And there's a reason. There's a reason that Dez went to Jaden Thompson on that fourth down in the third quarter against Houston.
Because he was open?
Well, no, he was blanketed. He drew a pass interference.
He threw a dart. I know. I'm
because
being a
he's
dickhead, Brent.
Right. No, he's got some faith in him. That's how you know that in practice, behind scenes, Jaden Thompson is making plays. So yeah, I mean that it's exciting because spring practice, check it out. Who's going to fill the shoes of all these mammoth program changers?
Yeah,
there's going to be a lot of talent.
Who's replacing the legends?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of talent. I mean, Will Pauling, even Denbrock mentioned Pauling again.
Will Pauling had a nasty practice today. Oh, buddy, he looked good. Aaron, it was funny on last Tuesday, though, wasn't it? Will Pauling had a ball deep that he just barely struggled to come in with. And Sauce and Kobe, who were not practicing, this is when the young guys were practicing. Sauce and Kobe think so much of Will Pauling. They came over all the way across the field from where the defense stands to give Will Pauling shit. Walking all the way back up the sideline.
Chirped at him the whole way, 50 yards at least. Yeah. Chirped at him the whole way.
You don't do that to a nondescript freshman that like nobody knows their name.
Right.
Will Pauling mixed in with Trey Tucker. The slot is, and JoJo Bermudez coming in. The slot is in good hands going forward with this program.
They're set. Now flip it over. Defense, underclassmen who has shown you promise. Obviously, the answer is Deshaun Pace
is a sophomore.
Yeah. So that's the clear and obvious answer. But
I mean, we don't know.
Yes. The only other one who saw the field was Threats, right? I mean, you saw a little bit.
That's the only freshman.
A little bit of Jaheim Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the answer is probably Jaheim.
Yeah.
Because I thought Jaheim, in the opportunities he was given, played pretty well. Like there was a couple when Beavers got dinged up for about half a game.
Yeah.
He looked like he belonged.
He got injured like every game, right? Like he's just always getting injured. It's just I'm getting back out on the field. Do what you have to do. I'm going back out there.
Right.
He
got hurt.
He didn't get injured.
He got hurt. He got dinged up.
Between hurt and injured.
Yeah. The 2-play DL, not the 10-day.
Right.
But no, I think it's hard to say. Pace is the obvious answer because he's really the only underclassman that saw the field, like you guys said. I mean,
man, that's awesome and also terrifying.
Yes, it is.
There's one sophomore on the field all season on defense.
I mean, Justin Watley, when he came in, he looked like a beast. But that was late in each game. It is really hard to say. I mean, I know Todd Bumpus was getting some pump up for being a workout, gym rat, but I mean, aside from that,
Bumpus and Sammy are both intriguing, but
it's a long wait to see.
They just have such huge shoes to fill.
Yeah, and
oof.
How exciting is it? Threats showed you a lot on kickoff. So did Bumpus.
Yeah, I think Threats has got a chance to be really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the answer though is Pace or Jaheim. And then aside from that, it's tune in to spring practice.
I'm gonna need Aaron. I'm gonna need you at spring practice with me this year.
Yeah, I think that's
because there's going to be a lot to write about.
The offensive scouting report from Chad Brendel, defensive
from Aaron Smith,
Black Cat Smith,
and then we'll switch every other day. So Aaron's got offense.
Get the full dive.
It'll be Aaron Let It Fly Smith. I like it. I like it. And then biggest storyline throughout the season that you guys kind of latched onto and enjoyed? Not necessarily the biggest one of the team. You can take that if you want, but what was your favorite, biggest storyline throughout?
For me,
those guys came back and did it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's. I don't think it's close, right? Like, think about how crazy this statement is, and I believe it to be a true statement. Losing to Georgia changed the entire history of Cincinnati football. Because if they beat Georgia, right? What left to Dez and Maje and Brooks and Brown and Kobe and like, you know, what do they have left to prove?
Yeah.
They went to the Peach Bowl. They went to a New Year's Six Bowl, and they kicked Georgia's ass.
Mm-hmm.
And because they lost, those guys all said, we're not done yet. Job's not finished. And that happens in sports everywhere, right? And you know what usually happens? They don't accomplish the goal, right? They don't do it better than they did the year before. And these guys said, no. We're running it back. We got Notre Dame on the road, Notre Dame Stadium. We're going to go win that shit. We're going to win the American. We're going to make the college football playoff. We're going to take our shot at Alabama. Maybe they win, maybe they lose, whatever. But the story for me is those guys came back to do something and then did it. And that's fucking hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, currently the team's undefeated in games that I've attended as and been covering as a member of the media. So just saying.
Okay.
That's your storyline of the year. It's all about Aaron.
No, yeah. I mean, honestly, though, just getting to watch an undefeated team here in Cincinnati is a team that I grew up watching, loving, all of that. I mean, it's been surreal, absolutely surreal. So it's cool to feel like finally after the Big 12 snub, after everything that's happened over, you know, with the blow up of the Big East, the Conference USA stuff, like just we belong, and it's super cool.
Yeah. Chad, you said Des returning, and I agree with that, but mine is the whole entire COVID year players returning, the super seniors. Because
but I meant it as a collective, like the entire group saying we're coming back to change the narrative.
Yeah, so it's just something that's unheard of because I mean every team has super seniors. So this is the one time that you saw the super senior effect have a mammoth effect on one team that rode it all the way to a college football playoff appearance and a historic one as well. So, yeah.
Brooks, Brown, and DeBlanco played a full season for Tommy Tuberville. Like that is a thing that happened. There are 3 guys on this team that played for a coach who hasn't coached in Cincinnati since December of 2016. It's
had the
almost
Bengals,
2022.
Bengals head coach on the staff.
Right. Like, think of how insane that is, that there's 3 guys on this team that played for someone other than Luke Fickell, who is finishing his 5th season.
Right. Well, and then, I mean,
Garrett Campbell thinks this team is old.
And you continue looking down the line, though, you know, and it's Darian Beavers blows up his draft stock. Kobe Bryant wins the Thorpe Award.
Blows up his draft stock.
Yeah, blows up his draft. Jordan Jones has a senior moment in the Chili Special against freaking not
Tulsa.
Yes, Tulsa. No, it was against
SMU.
Yeah. And it's just like all these guys came back, and they did it. They did it, and it was with Dez and with Maje as well. So, you know, it's awesome to see. And the super senior thing is something that I guess is around for the next 4 years. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't think anyone knows how exactly that calendar is going to work from here on out. But yeah, that to me was the biggest storyline, was just seeing Joe DeBlanco, Darian Beavers, just all these players taking that next step, Kobe Bryant and so on and so forth, Brown, Brooks, just everyone. So yeah, that was awesome. But last but not least, I think I know what most of your guys' answers are for this one, but it is the favorite moment of the season.
I wrote about mine, just being on the field and getting to soak in as the confetti's flying, as Brent and I standing next to each other under the field goal post as the clock hits 0, fans rushing onto the field in an undefeated regular season.
Yeah.
With fans.
Yep. Chad?
I think mine's a little different. Seeing Bearcat Journal become something I never thought it was. Like, Aaron can attest to this. We couldn't walk 30 feet in the grid on a game day without people stopping us. Like, Chad, Aaron, like we started this thing in 2006, and you couldn't find 5 people on campus that knew who we were, right? Like, seeing Bearcat Journal take this ride with the football program and the basketball program in so many ways as well, but seeing us become part of a real part of this culture, I think has just been, I needed it, man. I had a rough year. I had a rough September to December.
Right.
And the games that I was allowed to go, getting to experience that and feel feel the support that everybody had for Kelly, which is why everybody stopped me. It was always, Chad, how's Kelly? Which is exactly how it should be. I don't want people to think that, but knowing that we've become a real part of this community and where people go to not only get the news, but to discuss and debate and interact in the community that we built, and seeing that evolve over something like this, I genuinely feel like we had an impact in the fan base's ability to connect and enjoy the greatest season in program history. And for that, I'm forever indebted to the staff, to the members, to the people that have supported us from the beginning, to the people that are just hopping on board now and realizing we do this better than anybody else. That part for me has been uplifting. It's carried me through some dark ass times over the past 4 months. So that's getting a little selfish with the answer for me, but it felt different this year.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's maybe that's what we missed in the COVID year, was that progression. Yeah. But 2020, we didn't get any of that. We didn't have any interaction with the fan base. We didn't have any interaction with the public.
Right.
So when it returned in 2021, it felt like something changed. And maybe it was, we got people through COVID, right?
Yeah.
That maybe it was, we were their outlet. They couldn't go to games, so they went to games virtually through us. And I know Aaron hadn't joined yet, but he was part of the fans that were living through us and trying to get on and become part of this. And I don't know, man, it hit different this year, what BCJ has become and how we've become so much a part of this culture and this community has been awesome.
Yeah.
And thanks to you guys for that, because you guys are a big part of that as well. This podcast has far exceeded any, when you start a podcast, it usually takes a long time for that podcast to pop. This thing pops with the fan base right away. They accepted it and loved it right away. And you guys have been a big part of that. So that's where I'm at on that.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Well, good answers, guys.
That was sappy, I know, but
no, that's good.
I'm going to give you my legit feelings on it.
That was like your Dan Le Batard Day After Freedom speech.
Right?
Well, mine was the win at Notre Dame. that was cool. It was I was there, and you guys don't really have probably a bunch of friends that are Notre Dame fans. I mean, maybe here in the next
your coverage of that game was incredible,
and it was crazy because they thanks they what was it bad?
Wasn't that the game No, it was Indiana you went to as a fan. My bad.
Oh no, yeah.
I was trying to get a dig in, but I got the wrong game. I got the wrong damn game.
No, the Notre Dame game was one where
you were. Yeah, you were there in the press box.
Had a bunch of friends that.
That's my bad. That's on me. That's my bad.
He just got to dunk on everybody all year with all the Indiana wins. Like Cincinnati owned the state of Indiana. He just got to dunk all over all of his friends.
I did, but it was awesome. Just the "Let's Go Bearcats" chant was up there with some of the more crazy things I've ever been a part of.
Something you never thought you would see.
No, not at all. And of course it was a thing where you guys don't have just like I'm telling you 3 group chats with just people that are just obsessed with Notre Dame, just diehards, and it's just like that's all I heard. It was like bring up recruiting rankings, bring up this, that, and the other, kind of what the Bama fans are doing right now, and to see what the team was able to do, and then at the end being on the field for the final, 5 minutes of the game, seeing the big, Malik Van sack with Marcus Brown, I believe, and just Dez out there with the flag. It was next level. That was a we made it feeling before, obviously the rest of the year went through.
Chad, no one has seen anyone do what Cincinnati did at Notre Dame to take over the stadium in that fashion with the red and the chants and all of that. Like,
I mean, it happened in their last home loss before Cincinnati.
So what? It was just 26 games, so that would have been like
5 years ago. Georgia, when Georgia went in there, Georgia did the same thing.
Like
Georgia took over Notre Dame Stadium.
Yeah,
so that's a cool comment right there. Kind of following up on what you had to say, Chad. Tony Hill says, "I'm from Detroit, living in Honolulu as we speak, and I've become a new fan over the past 5 years with your football program." So I mean,
welcome, Tony.
Kind of what we're talking about. Living.
I'm glad you found us.
When are you going to invite us to Honolulu?
What's up, dog?
What the heck is this all about?
I'd
like to surf.
Living Tony, vicariously through us, so that's great.
Tony, you got the hook on. I need some huli chicken in my life. It's one dish I've never had that I need to have. Huli chicken.
Huli.
All right, we are at 147. We need to get to this mailbag, even though it is fairly light. So let's get it started here. Did want to mention that this is sponsored.
Woo!
So I don't know. It's sponsored by 513shirts.com. If you want to filibuster for me while I set up all the imaging here.
513shirts.com. Head over to 513shirts.com. Get your hats. Get your Bearcat Journal hats. Look at those. The ones with the back. The one fit all hats. The Bearcat Journal hats. You can get your Bearcat Journal shirts. You can get your Bearcat Journal sweatshirts. You can get the red helms. Are the Bearcats going to wear red helms in the college football playoff? No,
I don't think they can.
Not. No, I think because Bama's going to be wearing those crimsons. So yeah. I'm all for. There we are. Look at this.
Go to partners.
Well, it's not just us, right? It's anything on the site. So
yeah.
I know, but I want to showcase our stuff, like
the cool stuff. I mean, all of it's cool, but like, look at that. What's that first one say?
That's an old one. That was a Mick thing. Don't shoplift tradition. But we got the trucker hats, the winter hats, the beanies. We got the BCJ hoodie, the masks, the Luke Fickell, the show goes on shirt.
Hey.
A lot of stuff.
513shirts.com. 513shirts.com. Aaron, we ready for that BBP mailbag?
Yep.
Fired on up. Presented by 513shirts.com.
Just want to make sure that there are no new additions here But first thing, is UC at a disadvantage in the transfer portal by being in the CFP or no? Are things happening behind the scenes, or is it totally focused on the job at hand outside of a few players on the team announcing their intentions? If it is a disadvantage, you obviously take that deal.
Sure, kind of. Because you're not completely focused on recruiting like a lot of other teams are right now. But you're in a dead period. So, not nobody can actually be like going all out and having kids on campus and, going and doing home visits. That's all shut down right now. And UC has a recruiting staff. Pat and Max and those guys do a great job. So they're constantly scouring the portal every day. Know that things are happening. Know that there's a lot of those things that I can't get into as they are happening yet. But when we can, we will. If you pay attention closely enough to the Bearcat Journal message boards, there are enough hints and clues in there that you'll be prepared if things happen and when things start happening. But right now, this team's trying to win the championship, man. All right. So, yeah, the things are happening. Yes, they are at a bit of a disadvantage because they're working. And yes, absolutely, you take it.
Stuff on the board about Afari working Brown for UK while they were on the visit here together. Think there's truth to this?
Not really. I think it's a Kentucky site that is not exactly accurate with anything they do. If you look, I think the guy that covers recruiting for them is right on like 70% of his crystal ball picks, which is terrible. I do think the families got to know each other while they were here.
Right.
So I think maybe if the kid does flip to Kentucky, that could play a factor in that, they got to spend a lot of time around each other. But I don't buy that Alex Afari took an official visit to UC to help Kentucky land an offensive lineman that's committed to Cal. Like, come on. Really?
That's a math lady type situation right there. But no, I think like you said, maybe they exchanged numbers. And
from what I heard, they didn't really even hang, like the parents got to know each other, but
right.
The kids didn't hang out much when they were on their visit because they were doing, for Afari especially, like he knows a bunch of the guys on this team. So, he knows Pace and Corleone and a lot of these young guys that have come from Cincinnati. He's doing different things than Jackson Brown was. They weren't besties. Like, I don't buy a lot of what was said from the Kentucky side that is, no.
Moving on. Is Sauce looking forward to finally being challenged?
Let me text him.
Do you not know anything about that kid? Of course he is.
Sauce already replied. He's really excited. He's
like, I
think
if you left it up to Sauce, he would say, "Where's Jamison Williams? I'm guarding him." Like slot, field, boundary, backfield. Is he returning punts? Then I want to be the gunner on the punt. Is he returning kickoffs? And I'm playing kickoff team. Like, yes, that's one of the most confident kids on the planet. So yeah, he's looking forward to Alabama coming at him. Absolutely.
Get your popcorn ready.
All right. And best individual Bearcat Bowl performance ever.
Oh, that's a tough one.
The Birmingham Bowl was fun. They dominated.
But individual, not team effort.
Oh, does it have to be Travis?
Does
it have to be Travis against Duke in the Belk Bowl?
Probably.
With the way it, like, he turned the tide of that game completely, and that was the coming out party for Travis Kelce?
Or was it Nick Davila in the
Motor City Bowl?
In the Motor City Bowl? No, I think I'd go Travis.
If Georgia misses that field goal last year, is it Jerome Ford?
with the one big run.
Yeah, I didn't do much other than the one big run. Brian Cook was the monster in that game.
Coming in on a
James
injury.
Hudson, maybe.
Yeah, James Hudson. Now we're just reliving bad memories. Get that question out of here.
Saying that you get 7 points if drafted in the first round, 6 if in the second, and 5 for being a third round pick, 4 for fourth, etc. Who do you think ends up with more points, the offense or defense, in this year's draft?
Ooh. Pretty fun question, UC Merck.
That is good because now we have to start doing math, right?
So you
well, I guess here's the here's where you have to start this question. Do you believe
Sauce and Dez first round
that Sauce and Maje are going to have a higher score in this hypothetical than Dez and Alec? Because I think those are the first 2 guys drafted on each side of the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
And then you got to think that
unless Ford sneaks in
both Beavers and Cook will then be higher.
It's got to be defense.
It would be defense in the end because I mean after Dez and Pierce, then you're waiting for Ford and Wiley.
Yeah.
And
it's defense.
You haven't even mentioned Kobe.
Yeah, because I mean Kobe would get drafted eventually, and maybe Brooks sneaks in for that +1 in the 7th round.
Who knows?
So
defense.
Time will tell. All right. Moving to basketball. Looks like there was a late addition to the basketball one, but segment with Mike. I'm assuming Rayfeld.
Yeah,
Mike
that's
Brady. We've talked about how
it's not Rayfeld.
It's not a thing.
It's not just not Mike's. Mike's not. Mike is very personable, but he's not like a ball of energy like Brady. So, like, we're gonna have Mike on at some point, but if you're gonna have Mike on, that's gonna be like a feature segment with a lot of intelligent question and answer and a lot of like detailed look into what his world is like. Brady just will just go, right? Like Mike wants to, Mike is going to talk about something. Brady will talk about anything. And it's just the difference in their personality types.
What about like Lepore? I feel like he would be.
Lepore would be, but I don't know that would be allowed.
Right.
Of course, I didn't think that Brady would be allowed to come on here with us like he has.
Legend.
There is that. Sorry, I'm in the middle of adding the one. Most realistic 2023 targets for basketball.
I don't know. Rayvon Griffith, the point guard that's playing at Linkier Prep from North Carolina, whose name is escaping me right now. Isaiah Collier. But so much of that stuff is going to be determined by, what they see on the road in the spring and summer. Like I wish I had a better answer that I could tell you right now, but they're casting a pretty wide net for 2023, and it's a long way away. And they're still figuring out what they have. And then guess what? When they get to the summer and they add Skillings and Reed and Tolentino, then they're again going to be figuring out what they have and who left and what they replaced them with. And, it's so far away right now that there's just not a right answer.
Yeah, my quick thought on that is, man, I am excited for Daniel Skillings. The other two as well.
This team needs a Daniel Skillings.
But, man, Daniel Skillings. Whew.
Okay, so COVID protocol testing for college football and basketball. How often they test, who all they test, vaccinated, unvaccinated, both. How many players or staff does it take to be on a pause, etc. Just anything you can share on what you know.
Don't know. Don't ask. They're not going to tell me if I do ask. My understanding is they're following NCAA protocol. So go check NCAA protocol. That's what they're doing.
There you go.
All right. Which young player develops the most the next 2 months to be a core player in 2023? Madsen, Hensley, McGinnis, or Locken?
I would hope it's Vic because Vic is the most naturally talented of that bunch.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see Hensley taking strides. We've seen him taking strides. We've also seen him, have a decent game and then not make much of an impact, and a decent game and not make much of an impact. But I think the answer, if you're hoping for what's best for this program long term, I think the best long term talent on this roster is Victor Locken. So I think the answer has to be Vic.
Vic, Odie, Mikey Saunders. Those three, I think, if they take the steps necessary throughout the rest of the season, that's a pretty doggone good young core.
All right. This one had a couple different parts to it. Obviously, Lenny and Wiley have dominated the tight end position this season, but with it appearing that the recruitment of Danny Lewis could fall through, how do the tight ends waiting in the wings on the current roster like Mateer, Schmitz, and Singleton stack up?
Hard to tell. They're not getting a lot of reps right now, right? Like
Mateer had a great catch last week when
he's clearly very talented, but he's not, he's not getting reps with the primary quarterbacks. He's not running against the primary defense. Like, those are things that we're going to find out in the spring.
He's a big dude, man.
He's a big athletic dude. I like what I've seen from him in terms of like the way he approaches things. I think the staff is happy with him, but and until Josh and Lenny are so much of who they are offensively,
right,
that you just don't get much of a chance to see like what the other guys look like cycling through, because most of the time, like, either Lenny's running with the ones and Josh is running with the twos, or vice versa.
Yeah, because they want their rep.
They've got to get those guys as many reps as possible. So that's a great question in terms of like one of the multitude of things
we'll be watching in spring ball.
We're going to be watching in spring practice. I like what I've seen from Shaman. I've seen some flashes at times from Peyton Singletary in terms of being a pass catcher. We'll see.
Well, the thing about Singletary as well for me is you can tell that the rest of the players love him. And I think that's a big thing. It means you're either a great, fun, outgoing guy, or it means that you're also showing some things on the football field as well, some flashes. And also that interception that Des threw at ECU, he wasn't trying to squeeze it to Josh Wiley or to Lenny Taylor. He's trying to squeeze it to Peyton Singletary. So I don't know. I think hopefully he has that big step that everyone knows, because the door is pretty open for them to really take the next move.
Well, and the follow-up question, also by the same asker, is based on practice with the young guys getting more reps, which ones look ready to potentially step up next season?
Spring football, man. Like, this is just such a different bowl season.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when there is like, there's 20, like we talked about, there's 20, 30 minutes. Like, you're not going to get a great feel for like, nobody's dominating 20 minutes of like 4 periods of practice. Like Ethan Wright has looked great in those periods. We know that. Like that kid's going to run hard and be a monster.
But like big picture, we're going to have to spring football is going to be Christmas for this program, because it's essentially going to be an entire new generation of what Cincinnati, like, it's the next iteration of what Cincinnati football is all about. And I just don't think, like, from practice you can tell yet, because you don't see enough yet. You don't have that like repeated. And remember, they're cycling through all of the young guys in those 20 minutes.
Well, and it's fun because there are a lot of highly rated players that are going to be the ones getting those.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, not only is the whole entire,
and you're going to add 9 guys in the highest rated class ever for the spring.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
And
Not
transfers.
Not sure how any of those questions of the last two ended up in the basketball mailbag, but that's where the chips fell. So,
Here we
the
go.
mailbag, the Banks mailbag. We're in the Banks, and Skins, everyone's favorite Skins, writes in. I checked with the boss man. He has seen this classic, so here we go. Quentin Tarantino wants to reboot Pulp Fiction using the BCJ staff and members. Who plays what role, and why is Aaron playing Vincent Vega? Follow-up question: what is your least favorite Christmas song, and why is it the Little Drummer Boy Parumpa Pum Pum? P.S. Free Kelsey and give her a podcast on BCJ Network. Kelsey rants about Kelsey and other ramblings.
Kelsey, come here.
Kelsey rants about Kelsey and other ramblings from a tween, a weekly segment brought to you by Anchor Grill.
Stand behind him. So they want to give you your own podcast. Are you ready for your own podcast? Yeah? What would you talk about? TikTok?
Yeah, and Squishmallows.
TikTok and Squishmallows.
She understood the assignment.
TikTok's big time. I get behind the TikTok.
So you would break down TikTok videos? That would be your content? That's actually a big thing on YouTube.
Maybe it's time for a BCJ TikTok.
Would you run the BCJ TikTok? What are your ideas for the BCJ TikTok?
You gotta give me merch first.
Oh, I gotta get her merch first. Speaking of 513shirts.com, hey Mike, we need Kelsey merch. She's not willing to start a podcast or a vlog until she's making money off of merch. I don't think she understands how this game works. Pulp Fiction. I guess I would probably like Aaron. You're Vincent Vega, really?
You're Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Largely because you talk the same.
I'm loud and I cuss a lot.
I'm not yelling. It's just the way I talk.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, I don't know.
You as Vincent, I see you as more as Bruce Willis.
I mean,
Zed's dead, baby.
Is there a bad answer there?
No, I think that's the Bruce Willis. Like both of those characters, Travolta and Willis, were awesome in that movie.
Yeah. Agreed.
Brent? Are you Zed?
No, I'm not. I'm not letting you guys gang up on me on this one. I'm definitely Travolta.
You're definitely Travolta.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Give me Travolta.
Then the follow-up question: what's your least favorite Christmas song, and why is the Little Drummer Boy?
We're shutting it off right there.
Are you going to continue? I was just trying to push it along.
There's more people that work here than the three of us.
We're at 2:07.
Give a shit. What do you got going on in the morning? I got to go to practice. You don't have a job.
I do have a job. I am the executive producer for Bearcat.
But you're not working again until tomorrow night.
Until we do the nightcap here. And
yeah, we got to do the nightcap. I mean, so let's see. I actually am I Samuel L. Jackson or am I Marcellus Wallace?
Man, it's been a long time since I've seen Pulp Fiction.
The guy that runs
Marcellus
everything.
Wallace is
right. Like that's why Vincent Vega was in trouble because he was out with Marcellus Wallace's wife at the discotheque. I don't know. What do you think, Brent? Am I Samuel L. Jackson or am I Marcellus Wallace?
I think that you
because I think Dave could also be Samuel L. Jackson.
Right, and then because you do kind of sit back and then if someone F's up
out of line, right,
then you're able to kind of be the one to and like you would probably I could see you do that thing when you know Bruce Willis is driving in the car and then Marcellus Wallace sees him and he's like that's him and I could see you like if like you know one of us slip up and we're like saying something we shouldn't at a certain time then you're like
just hit you with my car.
Wait a second. Yeah, so I don't know. I think that's up for debate. who's the guy? What's his name? The fox or the wolf or that comes and cleans up everything.
The cleaner would be. I mean, that would have to be Brett, right? Brett's the lawyer. Like,
right.
We'd have him come in and like know the ins and outs of what needs to be fixed.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Jimmy Wolf.
Who plays Steve Buscemi's character? Buddy Holly. Or Christopher Walken's character, Captain Coons.
I mean, look, man. Pulp Fiction is iconic. Like, I don't think you realize how many legends were in Pulp Fiction,
right?
Until you go back and watch Pulp Fiction.
Or Kathy Griffin as Kathy Griffin,
right? Who's the guy that's like that stabs the adrenaline shot?
Oh yeah.
And
in the chick and the Uma.
Yeah, Uma Thurman. Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah, Frank Whale guy. Yeah,
we should have researched this better.
We should have looked it up real quick.
We should have researched this better.
We have to. No, I mean, obviously, it's a phenomenon.
I've got Aaron as Bruce Willis.
I'm going to get to a point where anytime Skins asks these questions, I'm going to be watching that movie that day.
So you have a better...
Yeah. It's getting to that point.
Well, then you're going to have to get the mailbag up early enough.
Earlier than noon. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the follow-up question, what's your least favorite Christmas song? Why is it Little Drummer Boy Pum 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 Pum? For me, it's I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas.
I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. Only a hippopotamus will do. Yeah, that song sucks.
Rhinoceroses.
I love all Christmas music. Come on, man.
Of course you do.
You know what Christmas song gets the worst rap? Because it's maybe my favorite Christmas song. And if you don't like it,
Christmas is you.
No.
That one gets a bad rap.
I get nothing but hate on my favorite Christmas song.
And Happy New Year.
Nobody hates Christmas in Hollis, Queens. Paul McCartney, Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time. That is a delightful song. Yeah, it's a delightful song.
It is a beautiful song.
And people shit on that song constantly.
People also crap on Harry Connick Jr. and Michael Bublé. I want all of it and give me like 10 or 20 doses. What my mom and dad used to do is they would play the songs like the kind of like with the orchestra real loud throughout the entire house. Be like dun 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 dun, and it's just like
like Mannheim Steamroller and
it'd be so loud and like you'd be trying to sleep so that Santa Claus can come, and I'm just like it's just rocking and rolling and I can't even fall asleep.
Oh, that's a TikTok ad.
Child.
Tickle tackle.
She's now like 1 foot away from me for the rest of this podcast.
I was not. I was in the other room when I came in here.
Skins invited her.
Thanks, Skins.
This is where great song.
This is where we're gonna get pulled from YouTube if you continue this. All right, so if you manage to survive the Skins apocalypse, what do you think your Skins post-apocalyptic job would be?
This. I'm not built to do I don't exist to do anything but this. What do you want, child?
Yeah.
Get out.
I mean,
how rude.
Be the Aaron, would you want to be
Skins,
president?
this is your fault, by the way.
Because you survived Skins.
I didn't ask for any of this.
Yeah. Skins is dead, right? It's the Skins apocalypse.
So Aaron becomes president.
Is it right? Aaron's King.
King.
Forget president.
Yeah.
King.
Czar.
Czar. I like Czar would be, if I could pick a title, Czar would be.
I feel like you get a badass scepter if you're Czar.
Right.
And then I'll pick a different country and become the same one over there, and we'll just have fun.
King just gets a crown. Like, fuck a crown.
All right, and the last question in the mailbag.
This isn't a question, it's a joke.
Yeah. I didn't even read that. I just cut and paste.
No comment.
So the people listening can't see it. So now you have to read it because you put it on the screen.
And Aaron, yes, you do. I'm not touching it.
We did have a couple other questions here earlier on that I wanted to wait for this.
No, you got to go back and read that shit, bro.
Why?
Because you put it on the screen.
It's so uncomfortable.
I know. Read it.
Oh man.
You got to. You can't just. You got to learn your lessons. You can't just copy and paste.
What's the difference between kinky and perverted? Kinky is when you tickle your girlfriend with a feather. Perverted is when you use the whole bird.
Wah, 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 wah.
Moving on. So
can we get a soundboard with that? We need that from the soundboard.
I'm gonna be working on having a soundboard, but
all right,
we'll have to make sure that all the sounds are okay to be played without copyright infringements.
I only need one request on the soundboard.
Just that?
No. Well, that 2 requests. That and the scene from Half Baked where he says, "Yes, Cuban B." I need that.
Any incoming transfer portal news you know of? Any positions you think might be filled through there for next season? I know we've touched on that.
Any transfer portal news I know of? Yes.
Wait and see.
Stay tuned.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's floating around on the Bearcat Journal boards, as we've mentioned.
There's a lot of rumors that are floating around on the board.
Some are true.
Some of them are true. I just let a bomb on the transfer portal thread.
Nico, get to work.
Is Geno season approaching? As there was news that surfaced this week of potentially an offensive coordinator spot being filled at LSU by one Matt. Is it Matt or Mike Denbrock? Who knows who's reporting these things these days?
My understanding is that there have been a lot of places reach out to Cincinnati coaches about open positions, and the answer has been the same answer that was given by Luke Fickell to Notre Dame. I'm working right now. If you would like to call me when I'm done working, maybe we can talk. But until I'm done working, I'm working. So that's where this thing is at right now, man. These guys are locked in to go shock the world in Dallas.
Yeah, I think I'd be a little upset if, any of the other coaching staff didn't do exactly what the leader of the team did in, kindly deferring until the season was over. So that all said, that is your 513 shirts mailbag. Don't forget that you do get free shipping on all orders right now over $45. That is for a limited time only.
And also, Brent, hit one final on the title sponsor.
One final on the title sponsor. It's our good friends. It's our really good friends over at Danco Transmissions. Family-owned business. Right over there by Jungle Gyms. Hit them up. Mention the BBP. Mention Brady Collins. Mention Chad Brendel, Aaron Smith, and I. Get a little bit off that oil change. Little $10. Little dock it off. BBP, Danco Transmissions. Thank you so much. Well, guys, do we have anything else out of either of you? Any parting words?
I mean, we won't be together again until post-Christmas. So Merry Christmas to all of our loyal weekly listeners and to the both of you.
Oh, thanks, Aaron. Merry Christmas to you too. And you too, Chad. Love you guys. But hey, you know what? Without further ado, special thanks again to Danco Transmissions and to 513shirts.com. Big shout out to both Aaron Smith and Chad Brendel. I am Brent Young. We'll be signing off until after Christmas. Yet again, this is the BBP presented by BearcatJournal.com.